Booyah.
There's the live button. All right.
All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, let me check Facebook, man. So, welcome everybody to another live stream here. This might be short-lived if we're not streaming on Facebook. We should be though, man. Let me see. Big test. And we'll be able to see if people are commenting. And you guys, welcome to another live stream with the Bow Wow Build channel here, Bow Wow Build page. Let me see.
I don't see
We're
it in
live,
your.
bro. We're live.
We're
Okay,
live.
we're
All
good.
right. Giddy
We're
up.
good. I'm gonna tag you in this. Evan. No, I'm gonna tag the Doggett. Actually, I'm just gonna post. Well, yeah, Doggett style. I wonder if I can do. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me the wonderful Evan Doggett, and that is his last name.
That's the real deal.
Doggett style training. Here we go, buddy. So I just
And
tagged
then
you.
people often say they'll be like, "Yeah, it's your last name, but did you change it to be your last name?"
So yes, I
No.
did. Yes, I
Yeah.
did. I feel like I'm so obsessed
Yeah.
with dogs
Yeah.
that I am now Mr. Doggett. So yeah, and then I'll share
Gonna
this
change
on.
it to Bow Wow.
Yeah, well, people, I go to church, and my last name's Church. I'm Catholic, and so people are
Yeah.
just like, yeah, same
Did you
thing,
do
man.
it on purpose?
Yeah, did you do it? I'm like, yes, I'm so devout that I changed my name to Jesus Christ. No, just kidding. Bill
Yeah.
Church.
You're gonna get banned a second time on Facebook.
Yeah, dude. And hey, you guys, you follow me on X. Everybody that's watching right now, well, follow on YouTube, but YouTube's not as good, not the same freaking boat. But X, I guess, is all about the uncensors. So if you want to join me live, make sure to follow at Bow Wow Bill, one word on X, and we won't be censored as much, I hope. Um, and Evan, I'm going
Yes,
to share
sir.
this on my personal page. And while I do that, do you want to give everybody a quick intro on who you are, where you're located, what you're all about?
Yeah, sure. So again, real last name, Doggett. I've been doing this for about 13 years professionally. Everything from gun dog training. Spent the first couple of years doing mostly gun dogs, but also grooming and dog walking and daycares and nutrition. You name it. I mean, it's been an extremely varied education, especially early on, and just trying to learn from as many people as to get the most diverse background as possible. Um, and I've been mostly working with pets and aggressive dogs, aggressive pets for the past 10 years or so. And yeah, it's been a great ride so far. I've been doing in the past 3 years training a lot more trainers, which is a lot of fun, very rewarding. Working with trainers, young trainers, experienced trainers, teach them how to make money, but also how to solve problems that only dog trainers face, not just the dogs, but the clients and the quote unquote work life balance, whatever that's supposed to look like, whatever you want it to look like, really. And that's been my journey so far. And we've got a few other projects on the go. 2020, I left a franchise that I was with, which was a great journey, and just ready to do my own thing, which is Doggett style here, and launched an online course. And then last year. It's a very holistic dog training course. So it's literally like there's 7 different elements. So it's not just training, but it's like training the people. There's a whole section on you, a whole section on health, raising a puppy, raising a rescue dog, how to play with your dog. It's the most holistic program that I've seen out there, simply because my approach to dog training is not just obedience. It has a lot to do with health. It has a lot to do with social relationships, not just between the person and their dog, but also dog interpersonal relationships, pack dynamics, things like that. So it's it's been a lot of fun. And then last year I launched, or 2 years ago now, I guess, maybe last year, hard to keep track of time. I launched an e-collar course, which I always said I wouldn't do. I found that people struggled with certain online courses, but I just made it as bite-sized as possible. As someone who's got wicked ADHD, the content that I need to consume is like bite-sized and right to the point, and get rid of as much fluff as possible or jargon as possible. I think that's fantastic for the people that like um, really elongating their content and filling it full of jargon. But my whole style, my whole shtick has been as simple and as easy as possible, because I'm mostly working with pet parents, unless I'm working with dog trainers, and then we go really deep.
Yeah, I mean, I agree fully. And just really quick, man, I tried to share this, and let me show you.
Yeah.
I guess I can stream live, you guys, but I need everybody to share this for me because I was a bad boy. I don't know what the heck I did, but it wouldn't let me share, man. So if everybody can make up for me and share this live, if you wouldn't mind, so we can get as many
So
people.
where does it show that you are live, Bill?
On my Bow Wow Bill page. So facebook.com/Bow Wow Bills. And I'll post up, I think, here, let me do this. Can you see it, Evan?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, fantastic. And it's like Aaron Rodgers. I think you look like Aaron Rodgers. Somebody just asked, "You got Aaron Rodgers on?" I don't know. That's the football player, I think. I don't know. I'm not a big sports dude. So where did you get your logo, man? That's one of the things that I think is awesome. And who is that dog in your logo?
Yeah, that dog is this dog. And so he's the guy that started it all. He's the guy why I'm obsessed with dog health and helping clients with their dog health. He's the dog that I got in third year university, and then just like started binge watching everything. And that would have been 2010. So it was a lot of still like Cesar Millan and things like that, that
Yeah.
I literally took the rest of my student loan and went out in fourth year, and went out and did the Cesar Millan workshop thing. I met Brian and Sherry and Caesar, and did all, and that just started my journey.
Beautiful.
And that dog taught me a lot. Like, he was literally a pit bull boxer mix, and he became a working gun dog. I worked him upland and retriever training, and he was in blinds and all kinds of stuff. But we did everything agility. He was the most intuitive, best dog to help with rehabilitating antisocial or aggressive or just extremely reactive dogs. He would literally, without any prompting, I never taught him this, if he found that a dog was, being reactive because they just didn't have social skills, he would literally walk backwards towards them and just like wiggle his bum as he backed up across a room. Like, he'd literally just be backing up towards them, like stuff that you just can't teach. I mean, maybe you could teach it, but he wanted to do this stuff, and super, super cool dog. And lost him a couple of years ago to cancer, which is why, again, I'm like so obsessed with health and teaching that stuff to my clients' dogs. But yeah, his name's Rush. So he came that way, but one of the best Canadian rock bands of all time, obviously, and my favorite drummer. And so that was Rush. I created the logo, and my whole thing is, one of my mottos is, why so serious? And so the pink and purple and the gold is just like, let's have some fun. I really want to weed out the people that are just like not my shtick, and so I do that by being me, being true to who I am, and that it's good content. I think some people maybe get turned off by the some of the silliness, but it's I try to keep it as light / educational as possible.
Dude, I think we need more silliness, and one of the reasons I do these live streams, well, people don't realize this, but I'm a selfish dude. Like I just do them because I can learn from so many trainers, and I've had Brian on, I've had Sherry on. I actually have a Patreon page, you guys, and I might tap you, Evan, to do some exclusive content on there. But Brian and I, we've done a Zoom call where we interact with my patrons there. So if you guys enjoy
Nice.
what I do here, yeah, and he's awesome. He's one of my favorite people ever. He just moved to Salt Lake City, so he's there, and highly recommend him. And he's just a great, knowledgeable dude. And I think that people, as they delve into this, they forget, dude, we're working with dogs, man.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
supposed to be fun.
yeah, it's supposed to be fun. Like people get these dogs to enhance the quality of their lives, and dogs reach into every corner of the human existence, right? And we got the people that are really serious about these dogs, and we also have the people that just want a cool ass dog, man, that they don't have to worry about, that could take to a barbecue, and that
Yeah.
when they call the dog comes happily. When another dog comes into their environment, the dog's not going to try to beat them up or run away and shirk and screech. And and I think, I love what you said about chunking it down, bite size, not literally, but figuratively, making stuff bite size. And I think that's important, especially for new dog trainers to learn, because they go to all of these seminars, they come out with all the terminology, and it's good to know. It's good to know, positive, negative reinforcement, what happens, what this is. But at the end of the day, the human element of this relationship is looking for help to solve their problem. And if they can't really understand the problem in a way that they get it and they can affect
Yeah.
change, right? And
Yeah.
especially if they get it in a way that makes them chuckle and makes them realize, hey, this is kind of normal, you know. And what you're dealing with is it might have been, the way that you approach the situation at the beginning, but let's reframe this, and then let's try this, right? And then it's a dynamic type of thing, like interspecies and cross species communication. But at the end of the day, we are appealing to the human aspect by being an advocate for the dog, right? And how we can most effectively do that is key, in my opinion. And if you can spice it up with some humor and make people actually laugh and not get so serious about their
I
situation, even
think
if
there's I think there's a lot of guilt around having a dog that doesn't listen, or having a dog that's acting in a way. It's like super embarrassing. Like the number one thing that I hear is like, when I get down to it with them, is like, I'm embarrassed. I'm As far
mm,
as like, I'm ashamed. The people end up living some very distanced lives as a result of feeling these feelings of being scared, ashamed, embarrassed. Maybe they're hiding it from their landlord. Maybe they're hiding it from their parents. God knows that lots of everyone's parent is some level of judgmental, or we're just scared of that, or what our partners are going to think, or what the rescue is going to say. I've been trying to do a lot of digging on all these contracts that breeders and rescues force people to sign in order to get a dog, which says we won't use certain tools,
mm,
if you do or do certain kinds of training, or neuter the dog or don't neuter the dog before these dates, we're taking the dog back. There's a lot of fear mongering in certain spaces, and this become people's family members. But also, especially with a lot of people that don't end up having kids, I see it a ton with millennials, is they take on the way the dog is acting as a reflection of their ability to be parents, to be good parents. But like you said, it's an interspecies communication. Like, your dog is not a human, so the way you're trying to communicate to them is probably from a very maternal or paternal stance, and that often doesn't fly, right? So
In fact,
it's something that
it makes you look like a sucker a lot of times in that dog's eye because we're nurturers by nature, right? And so when we start to parent and start to do the things that come intuitively for us, because we're not a dog, we're not a predator. That predator
sure.
can look at it as, this person might not be well, I could definitely take advantage of this, right? They'll definitely take advantage of us sometimes, but there's times that we need to step up to the plate and put that nurturing side of us into the passenger seat and take a more assertive stance with this dog to show them, hey, we're also a leader, we're a lover, but we're a leader as well. Is that, you agree?
Yeah, I think the problem with that sentence though is there's so much conflicting information out there. There's nothing wrong with the sentence. It's the sentiment is there's so much content that says being a leader means just give your dog more treats, just give your dog more affection. Like it just takes more time, it just takes more patience, it just takes more love is a big one. And it's like maybe, yeah, maybe you need to love your dog more. Maybe you need to love your dog differently. Maybe your dog just needs a correction, in something that they go, didn't like that, didn't like that. And you go, great, let's move on, but I think it's a very, very confusing space for new pet parents, for existing pet parents. Like I'm working with someone right now, they've spent the past 2 years with their golden retriever. They've worked with 3 different dog trainers, um, from like very purely positive to just like old school yank and crank choke chain stuff, and they've been hiding the whole time from their breeder, who they also worked with, because in the breeder's contract, it's like, I'll take your dog back if you're using choke chains, prong collars, whatever. But and at the same time, they're like, doing choke chain training in secret and things like that. And one e-collar / food lesson, and they were able to accomplish more in that lesson than they were in the past 2 years. Now they've done a ton of foundational training, which is why that lesson went so well. Um, but sometimes you just need different tools. Sometimes you need to be open to those things. But I think there's a lot of shame and guilt, which is a personal journey. But I think that's a huge part of why I try to make my I know that's a huge reason why I try to make my content as light and accepting and loving as possible, because there are a lot of people out there telling you you're doing it wrong and that you're a bad person as a result of trying to train with treats, or putting a prong collar on your dog, or an e-collar, or putting them in a crate. Like there's just so much polarizing information. And I think there's a lot of really mean people out there, a lot of really mean dog trainers that make you feel like shit. I mean, nobody can make you feel a certain way, but you know what I mean? They do their damnedest to try to make you feel that way. So for me, it's just, that's not what you get with me. You just get me being why so serious? There's a time and a place to be serious. And that's part of it. But like on the grand scale of things, why can't we do it from a fun perspective too?
Yeah, and to just back up and take this 30,000-foot view of like, dude, we're working with dogs, man. That's like I said earlier. It's like,
Yeah, it's great.
it should
Great
be
quote.
a walk in the park, man, and just like what we do with our dogs. And it's also like, in full disclosure too, like I use every single tool. I even use choke collars, but I use them so it doesn't come off the dog's head, right? That's the only reason
Sure.
that like, I'm not choking a dog. I'm not, like, that's not
Sure.
my goal here. And that's the other thing, is like, people need to realize is that us as people that have trained and do this for a living, we're literally changing our lives and trading our lives to work with dogs. And the last thing I ever want to see or ever want to do is hurt a dog.
Sure.
Right? That's not my
Of
goal
course.
here, but there's boundaries that need to be put in place, and there's some behavior that needs to be met head on, like right now. And I call it a
Yeah.
come to Jesus, right? Build church here. Oh, no. and that's what it is. Like, look, man, these are boundaries that need to be in place, and boundaries are very important. And just like my friend Sherry Boyer says, you can have like a little rickety fence that's all grown over by the weeds that you can easily just step over as a boundary, or you can have Guantanamo Bay, and and those are two different situations, but those boundaries communicate something very important to that animal. And I try to set them up in situations where the animal will actually teach themselves, hey, that wasn't a good idea, my bad, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't need to be involved 100% nagging. We can set up environments, set up situations where the dog gets the message very clearly, crystal clearly.
Sure.
And that's what the beautiful thing about having these electronics or e-collars, like the cell phone. I tell people, like, I don't need an iPhone. Here, let me see. I don't know why my phone isn't working, but I have my iPhone. I could just use a regular flip phone or just a landline, but this thing allows me so much more capabilities with my communication, even though I'm not allowed to share on Facebook right now. I guess I can't even share links, dude. I just tried to share a link to my Patreon. It wouldn't let me. So let me do this.
I was able to share. I'm pretty sure it shows that we're live on my
Good.
business page.
Well, I try to comment my Patreon. Oh, you got some coffee for me, doll? My wife just brought me some coffee. Thank you, baby.
Good woman.
Yeah, good woman. And yeah, so everybody, if you could share the link, I'll just put it on the scroll here for a little bit. And the tools that we have, and that's the other aspect of this, is like they're just tools, like they're training tools to get us to a place to help us effectively communicate with this dog.
Sure.
And there's many different roads to Rome, as they say. And these tools can kind of help us make an 8-lane highway to Rome. And if they're used correctly, and to understand, just like you said with that golden retriever, there was a foundation, and that we have to have a solid foundation. But once that foundation is in place, then we can build to the sky, man. And that's the beautiful thing about it. I got your live in. Let's go to the comments. We got a question here, and it's not the tool. It's not the tool, it's the fool. George, you know George?
I do know George,
the OG, and he just had a medical thing, and I just saw Jessica's post. George, we love you, brother, and praying for you always, man. You're awesome, and thank you for being here. Teresa says she just got the notification from YouTube. Everybody subscribe to the YouTube, Bow Wow Bill on YouTube. And just like Teresa, I don't know what I did, but I got in trouble with Facebook and X, or go to X as well. We're streaming live on X right now. Do you surf, Evan?
I do. Yep. All year round.
So he says, pretty sure you surf, Evan, if I'm right. He asked, what similarities, we'll go a little bit of a tangent here. What similarities do you see in surfing and working with a dog, aside from just the joy of it?
Interesting. I've never thought.
Well, it's individual, right? There's a challenge, right? That you can't rely on anybody but yourself. Right.
I think it's both. The thing that comes to mind, the first thing that comes to mind is like they're both physically demanding, or like the way that I train with dogs is like I want to have fun with them. I want to be like, potentially rolling around and running through the woods and like, but equally, if you got a Great Dane that tries to attack you, like you better be in shape, like that if you can't do a single push up and you're working with aggressive dogs, that's now there's lots of other ways to work with aggressive dogs. I've got clients in England and Australia and all over now that I help them with aggressive dogs, and I'm never in the room. But it's easy to get over your head. Yeah. Yeah. Easy to drown. No, I think it's important to be as physically active as possible. But then again, like, I mean, you can't surf without being very physically fit, but you can work with dogs just by sitting in a chair. It was one of the best lessons that I ever learned. Was just, Duke did a whole series when we were working together about being a lazy dog trainer, and a quote unquote lazy dog trainer, and just like how much you can shape a dog that wants to work by just sitting your ass in a chair with either a clicker or a marker word and a bag full of food. It's pretty cool what you can do. But yeah, I think a big thing that I pride myself in is how I work with clients and being able to just ebb and flow. The stricter you make your program, or the more you make your, they ask you for advice for something and it's this way or the highway, there's no flow in that. There's no ebb and flow. And you're often going to lose clients or have clients that struggle more, because you can give them the best advice in the world, but if it's something that they have a mental barrier of, an ethical barrier of, all kinds of reasons why, huge emotional barriers around a concept or a way of doing things, it's not going to work, right? So being able to go with the flow, and give multiple suggestions, and have a bigger toolkit, have a bigger quiver, as we'd say in surfing, have a bunch of different boards, and know how to use them, I think is important.
An
That's
eclectic
my very
knowledge.
creative way to answer that unorthodox question, but thanks for it.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have an eclectic knowledge base, because just like you said, there's mental, ethical, emotional barriers that people have, and that's why I was talking about the 1,000 roads to Rome. And you have to, as a professional, be like, okay, cool, I can see that you might be uncomfortable with this, using this tool. Well, here's the advantages and the disadvantages of using it.
Sure.
Here's the advantages and disadvantages of going purely positive. Here's the advantages and disadvantages, and we have to be honest with them too. Like this dog is not going to make it, especially in the time scope that we have available for us. This is going to be like, you're calling me to effectively and efficiently invoke change in your life, because you're spending your hard-earned money for my advice.
Yeah.
And I owe you, not just professionally, my obligation, but ethically and morally, in my opinion, right? The truth.
Sure.
And it's something that we have to realize, that there's hard conversations to have in dog training. But just like what we're saying in the surfing world too, like, you have to kind of be aware all the time of where to turn and how to adjust yourself, not just with the dog, but with the client as well. If you sense some apprehension on some of the barriers that we're talking about that are coming up, and that takes body language, just like we read the body language of the dog. And you and I can sit here just perfectly still with our voices and have this conversation that we're having. And like Nelson Hodges says, one of my favorite dudes ever,
he's the best.
We're chattering monkeys, right, to a dog. And so to be aware of that body language, not just in the animal that we're working with, but the human as well. And be able to pivot. And that takes an eclectic knowledge base. That takes being open and not just being stuck in one philosophy. And just like you said, like, this is it, and being rigid with that philosophy that we're adhering to. And then when it doesn't work for that situation, people shame their clients for it. I never shame my clients, dude. That's something that I
wouldn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, man, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's something that, in my opinion, reflects poorly on you and the philosophy that you're adhering to, and not realizing too, like, we all have different lives, man. And I've had clients with like 6, 7 kids.
Yep.
Right. And they're like, I didn't do anything. And I'm like, I bet you didn't. Let's reiterate the road to Rome here, and that I can possibly take your dog and help you with this. Right. And, but that's the other aspect of this, is just being able to, I like what you said, flow, and to adjust your sales accordingly based on that particular situation, right? And we have the 3 variables that are always changing. We have the dog, of course, and then we have the person, and then we have the environment, right? And as we come in, we're looking at that, and we're looking for patterns of where we can help them with the change that they need with the relationship with that dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we have a couple other different comments here. Bonjour. I don't know what that means.
Bonjour, Dylan.
Do you speak French?
Not really. I for the longest time, and still kind of depending on the video I'm doing, I introduce myself with a big old bonjour, and then that's where it ends.
Okay,
I
there you
speak
go.
more Spanish than I do French, actually.
Oh, hola. Yay, it's the
Yeah,
surfer,
exactly.
cool surfer, funny dude. I'll meet you where you are, no matter not where I expect you to be. Goes for animals and handlers. Yep.
Nice.
And be able to adjust and know where they are. And what is your process, man, when you start evaluating? I know that you have doggetstyle.com. Do you send people to do a questionnaire? What is your, when you take on a new client, what does that look like?
Yeah, they book a free consultation, and then I get all the information that I need from that form. Then we jump on a Zoom call, and that's basically to determine whether I think that I can help the human. And so I don't need to see dogs in person anymore. There's not a problem that you can present me with that I haven't heard of it yet. Like dog behavior is only so varied. And if it's completely out to lunch, oftentimes it is medical. But let's say, and even then, it's medical, it's behavioral, it's social, it's almost never just one thing. And
Mhm.
so once, if I think that I can help them, if I think that I can work with them, I think we're going to be a good fit. Then they sign up and they get copies of my online courses, so they start their learning right away. And then by the time that I see them either in person or our first call, um, they've got a good foundation of knowledge under their belt. So then that prevents me from just regurgitating the same thing over and over again every day for my entire life and make me want to blow my brains out. Because I did that for 7 years or whatever. It's just this lesson one, lesson two, lesson three. It's just so boring. And so and the people don't retain the information nearly as well. Like my online courses are bite size. Like the longest video is 13 minutes and the average is 6.5 minutes. So
Yeah.
people get the information and they retain the information because they can watch it, while they're in bed or sitting on the couch or having dinner or whatever, when they're like calm and they don't have a dog that they're holding on to, embarrassed as hell that it's freaking out at the leash trying to hear me talk theory, or even just how to put an e-collar on or turn it on or whatever. So that works really, really well. And then my job is to just tweak their ability to train the dog and set up scenarios that enable them to eliminate their frustrations and achieve their goals. So whether that's off leash stuff, whether that's dog social, dog aggression, whatever, really, at that point, once they have the foundation, it's just me making suggestions on how to make it better, how to make it more applicable for them and their family and in their situation, and answering questions that they might have, because a lot of times they get these notions in their head that they must or must not do certain things. And a lot of times it's like, but is it a problem? Like, is it actually a problem? And sometimes it absolutely is a problem and they don't see it. And I have to bring those things up. But yeah, then once they do a few private lessons, then they graduate and they get to come to group class for my people in person, and then they've got ongoing support afterwards, so they can shoot me an email if they have a question. And so in the process of training, we're talking a lot about health and obedience and social skills and all of that stuff. And if they're clients that are online, it's, send me footage of certain things. And then same thing with dog trainers with a mentorship program, is essentially, what do you have on your roster? What do you want to talk about? Are you making enough money? Are we focusing on money or onboarding or whatever? Because it's the Wild West, and there's some fucking terrible advice out there for how to make money and how to work, from whatever. There's advice that works for everyone, and then there's advice that is a bit more universal, that is universal, and some advice that just some people very much works for them, but it's nothing that I would ever suggest that people do. But it's written in books and it's all kinds of stuff, and it's the Wild West, right? So
Yeah.
I try
Well,
to do
maybe
my best to help those people.
maybe that's something we can talk about on Patreon too, is like just some of these little pearls of wisdom, especially for marketing
Sure.
yourself. And burnout is a real thing here. And I want you guys to pay attention, especially you new dog trainers out there, about what Evan said about repeating yourself for 7 years, making you want to blow your brains out. Like, don't get that.
Yep.
Don't get that far, man, because it is true. You start to realize, hey, dude, I've had 3 classes and I could have just condensed it down to 1. Or if I just made a video and have everybody watch this video, then
Sure.
with the classes, we didn't have to waste any time of reiterating the exact same, like literally verbatim, the exact
Yeah.
same sentences, right? And so, I mean, what are some examples? I mean, I can come up with a couple as far as just like the psychology of the dog and how the dog, digests the information that's given to them. Um, can you think of anything just off the top of your head about what you were always repeating?
I mean, just like if you're going to teach someone how to get, how to motivate your dog, or what a marker is, or literally everything,
Yeah,
all the
everything could be.
things, how to turn on your e-collar. Is it rechargeable? Isn't it rechargeable? Like I could literally sit here and talk for 4 hours straight without taking a break on just like it's all scripted now in my brain of just like all the things you need to know. I could just go because I've said it so many times, and just talk for 4 hours straight about e-collars, or 4 hours straight about dog training theory, or whatever, that
Yeah.
it's just like, a big part of it is people don't want to be dog trainers. Dog trainers want to be dog trainers, but clients do not want to be dog trainers. So I used to spend a lot of time on theory, and I do not anymore. It's there if you want to know it, but to be frank, like, you don't dog training theory in order to get your dog to stop pulling you on a leash. You
What's
do
an
not need theory to condition a dog to an e-collar. It's
Yeah.
it's just keep it as simple as possible for clients, and you'll have A-type personality clients that are like, but I want to know everything, and that's fun too. Where you can be like, great, let's dive in and let's see what you know or what you don't know, or let's have fun with diving in, ask as many questions as you want. But most clients just want to stop being so embarrassed by their dog, that it's just, how can we make it fun and easy?
What are some analogies? Because that's what I like. I'm always watching movies or talking to people on these live streams. What are some analogies that you use to help them understand the situation that they're in?
So, there's been different phases in my life where, in my business, rather, I should say, where I'll ask people. It's a fun idea. It means you're coming up with new analogies all the time, but you can ask them on lesson one, or even in the consultation. So what are your hobbies? Like, do you have any hobbies or any passions? Are you really into snowboarding, or cars, or flower arrangement, or do you own a business? Or, like, if you can get information from the person, because what's the point of the analogy? The point of the analogy is to help people understand easier the message that you're trying to equate. But if my analogy involves NASCAR, and you drive a Schwinn bicycle, like, that's not going to help you, right? If I'm
Yeah.
talking, if I'm talking, even motorsport, anything like it, and it becomes more. If I'm talking, someone starts giving me, offensive line analogies for football. I've never played football. I played football for 14 minutes. I got a concussion, and that was the end of my football career. Helmet to helmet, boom, Evans out, the end. So I don't have any football knowledge. I'm not going to be using analogies like that. So a lot of times, I think the easiest analogies to use are parenting analogies, but it also will get you in the most trouble because these aren't kids, right? So
Yeah.
oftentimes I will, if I'm using a parental analogy, it will follow up with, but remember, your dog doesn't speak English, so you know, or your dog doesn't communicate that way. But sometimes just understanding rules, like my dad was a Mountie, was a national police officer, and my mom was
No
a
kidding.
teacher. So yeah, so no, man, don't fucking ask again. And so, so like sometimes I'll give analogies like especially with like if I have boomers or whatever, I'll say like, it's kind of like the positive parenting movement, and they just roll their eyes and they're just like whatever. But driving is often an analogy that I'll use with e-collar training because people are confused oftentimes with like, so I can hit the button for no and I can hit the button for yes, and I use like a car gas and brake analogy where you can
Okay.
pump the brakes or you can apply the gas. But if you don't know where you're going or you don't have a steering wheel, things like that, I'll use that. But I think if you
Love it.
want to be the most creative and the most authentic to that person is if you can use analogies that something that they're into. So it means some homework. It means you might need to learn about NASCAR. You might need to learn about shotguns or whatever. I always keep them non-violent. So I won't use like, boxing analogies or MMA or, oh man, I hung out with a dog trainer for a while that used to use like spousal abuse and marriage abuse and domestic violence analogies. And I was like, no, that's really a very sensitive subject that you
Yeah,
should not be
dude.
using for dog training. But
Turn people off.
again, oh Jesus! But everyone is their own person, and that might work for their clientele, but it's not my style. So yeah. What about you? You got any good analogies?
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, and I think too, and I'll go back on that, but I just wanted to highlight this. Like this industry attracts a lot of asocial people, dude. Like people that should not, like they work with dogs because a dog. I mean, their dogs can't tell you what they did to them. They can in their body language and stuff, but like this
Sure.
place, and unfortunately, like evil exists in this world. Like, and to not know about
Yeah.
it gives the people that are evil an advantage. And so we have to acknowledge.
Sure.
And I think that we, for the most part, are good people. And it's natural for us to mirror, right? So if we're a good person, we think everybody's a good person, and we have to remind ourselves. And that's what I'm doing here is like to remind people, look, there's not everybody's a good person. There's some people that are
Yeah,
not.
that comes out pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also when we're mirroring that we're good people, we have to remember too that the bad people are mirroring that everybody else is bad people too. So it's a very interesting dynamic, right? And so just
I think that's where a lot of new dog trainers really struggle because they listen to the noise on social media and they believe that using pressure means you're a bad person, you're a bad dog trainer, or whatever, because the purely positive school is so loud, telling
Mhm.
you, screaming in your face that you are a bad person. It's funny, Zach George jumped onto, he follows me on Instagram and he'll get on there and comment anytime I talk about e-collars. And it's just like, it, it's okay to disagree and it's completely fine. Like, I'm not going to take down your comment unless it's hateful. But it becomes very confusing for dog trainers that don't have this number of years of experience or do, and it's just like it's still not fun. Like it's still when you've got people telling you that you're a bad person, but it's I think it's really important to surround yourself with mentors and people that can remind you and show you the difference of what it is that you're doing makes a huge difference, and that a lot of the dogs that don't ever learn what no means end up being euthanized
Mm.
or arguably worse, that are stuck in a cage for 23.5 hours a day and whatever. So
Yeah, and I think that we can come together, and there is harmony that can be brought about once people start to actually get to know you, right? And know, like, I started out as a
Yeah,
purely positive, just like Zach George, dude. Like, I wanted this. I get it because I used to be that,
yeah,
right? Until
yeah,
I
sure.
encountered situations where I was like, dude, this is kind of making this worse. This is making this dog more manic. This is
Potentially. Yeah.
right. And so I was like, and I'm a big fan of the truth, man. And I pray that I said, God, one day I just said, God, I want the truth. I don't care how bad it is. I can handle it. Right. And so I want the eyes to see the truth and to work towards the means that will help my clients no matter what. And
How did you receive that information? How did you receive what the truth is? What was the answer? What did God
there's a
say, or you
messy
were put in
there
your path?
but there's a messy middle, dude. There's so many dogs that I had that I failed, and that I
Right.
wish, after the knowledge base that I've gained now today after working with dogs for over 20 years professionally, that I wish I can go back and just say, dude, I'm sorry. Like I
Yeah, for
failed
sure.
you, and unfortunately some of these dogs went to heaven, and that is it, man. It's something that weighs on my shoulders um for the rest of my life. I will never forget these dogs, but it's also
Sure.
seeing the situations that have, after that messy middle, right? And that's the messy, like, it's messy, dude. Like, it doesn't feel
Yeah.
good, right? And it just, like, it's not fun to be called an animal abuser or whatever. But the other thing is that God knows my heart and knows that I'm not hurting this dog. I'm getting him through this messy middle to save his life. And I always remember my dad saying, son, doing what's right doesn't always feel good,
Mm.
right? And so it's not,
Yeah, I
and I
true as
think
that.
that that's it. It's like this purely positive aspect is, I think they get it mixed up, because when we're talking about negative and positive, we're talking about adding and taking away something. And I've had episodes where I've done that, and
Sure.
that's the terminology. But people, when they hear positive, they think feel good. And when they hear negative, they
Yeah,
think feel bad, right? And they think
sure.
that there's a way through this path that is all feel good, and that's
Yeah.
unsustainable, that's unrealistic, and
It's
that's
just not
not
how
life.
the body works, right?
Right.
It's just, that you need to be stretched. You need to, that growth comes through discomfort, right? That doesn't necessarily mean physical discomfort. But, in terms of muscle growth or development, it's always through challenge. It's always through overcoming that challenge. So I think that's something that a lot of people go through the journey. And I had the opposite experience of you. I worked with only old school compulsion trainers and was so just turned off by dog training that I went and worked with the most purely positive trainers and studied pure like I mean, like, don't use a clicker, the dog will be offended, kind of
Interesting.
purely positive training.
I'll learn from
And then
them all
I
today.
watched, yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, I watched one of those trainers that their shepherd tried to bite them in the face. And then it was from then that moment on, I was like, okay, yeah, no, balance is the way for me, and what the service that I'll provide and whatnot. 'Cause it was just scary to see how far both sides can go. Some of the most beautiful dogs just shut down because the person decided more pressure, well, just abusing dogs really was the way to quote unquote train them, and then equally the opposite. So, but I think it's all the journey. I'm grateful to have learned as much as I have and can, but I don't think dog training needs to be all that complicated, to be honest. I think it's just understanding motivation and timing and consistency, and then just making that applicable, and teaching people how to use certain tools that are going to be the most effective for them and their dog.
Well, and then relationship. So one of the analogies I'll go back to is like rushing this relationship, dude. Like, if I come up and I just wanted to kiss you, like, or if we're on a blind date or something like that, and I just took liberties, and like I moved too
Yeah,
quickly, right? Do you see
yeah,
how that's a problem?
yeah,
A big problem,
yeah,
right? You want to get the hell away from me, right? And so
yeah,
it's all about developing the relationship, and and that comes through
Well, you
time.
can't use that analogy in your lessons, right? Because they're like, bring it in, big Bill.
I'm like,
Give us
damn it.
a smooch, big fella. You're gonna have to come up with some new analogies because they're just not gonna understand that
Is
one.
that why they always try to chase after? No,
That's
just
why they're always giving you a little squeeze at the end of your lesson,
holding me
sending you
on. I'm like pushing them
chocolates.
away. But that's it. I mean, people
Exactly.
forget that, man. It's like, dude, sometimes I'm with the dog for a week, and especially when I start doing my board and trains again, I just
Yep.
hang with them, dude. Like, I just hang
Yeah.
with them. Like, if they're an asshole and
Yeah.
they do something that they shouldn't do, then I'm there to be like, dude, knock that off, right? To provide those
Yeah.
boundaries.
Sure.
But I'm just hanging with you, man. I'm hanging with you, and then let's go check this thing out. Wow, that is pretty cool, right? And just like walking with them, just letting them experience me, experience my energy, and letting them show me that they're comfortable with me, right? And that to me is the foundation of the foundation, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I always used to like I would do a board and train, and I would a whole week or 10 up to 10 days, I would do anything with the dog other than hang out, like go for walks, whatever. But like asking them to do things was very minimal. It was just like, let's develop a relationship. Now, if you get a 6-month-old chocolate lab, you get that done in about 4 minutes,
Oh,
They're
totally.
just, yeah, so
Well, they
it really
push you
depends on the
too.
dog. I just got a new dog. I just got a German Shepherd. He's, they said he was like 3 or 4 years old. This dog, Bill, is like 15 months max. He's
Okay.
just a young, intact knucklehead. That's just the sweetest, happiest, most happy-go-lucky dog. But he's a complete buffoon. Like he's just zero attention span. He's just that. He's super reactive. He's over the top. He's
Okay.
whiny, but he's also just like, I let me get right up your left nostril and give you little tiny kisses and what, like he's just the sweetest dog. I saw him in a video and they were gonna euthanize him, and I was just like, nah, not this guy. We gotta go get him. And but I really just mostly like I got him reliably off leash within a week, and then we've just been exploring and hanging, and I'm just chipping away at him. There's no rush to make him super obedient, super quick. He doesn't have the attention span is going to take a long time. It's a dog that, because he's so sweet and soft, that you ruin a dog like that real quick. And so I'm just having fun with them and chipping away. And yeah, it's every dog is different, and I think that's
That's right.
something that over many years you learn this stuff, that there you can cookie cut any dog, but is it fun for either of you, or hopefully both of you? I think is an important part of the journey too.
Yeah, and that's why it takes that eclectic knowledge basis, because I might use 80% of one technique with this dog and 20% of another, and then the next dog in, it's like 50-50. Next dog in is 20-10, 30, 40. I don't know what my numbers. Yeah, they're 100%.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, like, I love to even, I mean, Don't Shoot the Dog. I have all these books, and I go to these seminars, but I don't hang my hat on any camp, or, I even call myself an individual. Like, I don't even say, like, even balanced or anything. I am a balance trainer because I use every tool and stuff, but I also, I want to be on solid ground. And that's where I talk about balance. Like, sometimes when you're balancing, like, sometimes you can be pushed over very easily. And so that's one of the analogies that I've used. But it's also when I'm really hanging with those dogs, it's like dogs that are very fearful of me, the dogs that are weary of their environment, dogs that are older, dogs that, and a lot of times, like you said, it's a medical thing as well. Like, that's one of the first things that I do is get a panel done, go to the vet, go check their teeth, man. Like, you have to, if this dog's in
Aggressive
pain.
dogs, teeth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So often.
And it's just like, how do you feel when you're in pain, man? Are you the same happy-go-lucky Evan? It's like, no, I'm guarding
Nope,
myself.
I'm a cranky asshole.
I am too,
Yeah.
and we have to remember that too with our dogs. But once the health check is clear, I had a dog with a UTI, massive UTI.
Yeah, that's very common.
Yeah, once we got that settled, the client called me back, was like, he's an angel.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And so remember that there's underlying, and then there's also bad breeding. There's also really anxious dogs that should have never ever been bred.
Sure.
That's
You've got
not
things that sometimes you'll never fix, right? Just that's the genetic cocktail that you got. But there's, I think, with supplements, with gut health testing, like animalbiome.com, and getting dogs on testosterone or estrogen and dietary, like, you do as much for them as you can health wise as you're doing obedience or before you do obedience. Dogs are bomb proof. They're just a million times better than they would be if you, as opposed to just teaching them place and sit and come and down. It
Yeah.
makes a big difference.
What was that website? Can somebody that's watching put in the website in the comments down below, because I am a bad boy. Animalgutbiome.com. Is that what you said?
It's animalbiome.com.
Animalbiome.com. Here, let's see if I can put this up here.
So that basically is you take a stool sample, and then they test your dog's gut health or your gut bacteria, and that plays a massive role in their behavior. I used to just throw every dog on probiotics and prebiotics and different things like that, but this is hands down. If you just click get the test right there, get dog test, it's $125 if you have pet insurance. Most of them will cover it and whatever recommended products you need. If you go to the shop up there at the top, and just click all products or whatever.
Oh, up there.
Yeah, to click gut digestion. Yeah, that's okay. And so it's really about, you got to know first, you want to do the test, right, to know, like, do I have too much, do I have not enough of certain kinds of bacteria? Because I've got dogs that, you like, oftentimes you hear trainers say just throw them on raw. Well, that can work, but if they don't have fusobacterium, for example, like, they're just going to have acid reflux and be puking and having diarrhea, and then people are like, raw is terrible, and it's like, well, no, your dog's gut is terrible. So these are FMTs here. This is a fecal transplant from 3 different types of dogs.
Dude, you're blowing my fucking mind right now. I'm sending this to a client as soon as we get off here, bro.
I do this with every client.
So every client, I'm gonna do it too, man. And this is because this, and I talked about
major behavioral changes, like dogs that I've said. So I make content for Consider the Dog, and I'm just about to release a series called From Sketchy to Social. And there's been dogs that I've said, listen, it's unlikely, based on my number of years of doing this, that this dog will ever be like social with strangers. But we can get them obedient, fix their gut, and they're like, no muzzle, happy-go-lucky, going up to strangers. Like, changes that you would never see through just obedience training or behavior mod. Like, or maybe it would take you years, and instead it's you're getting it done in weeks. But yeah, so you can do a free consultation with them once you've completed your test. So that way you can know what order of things to do, because your dog just, like, if your dog has leaky gut, for example, which most shepherds do, a lot of breeds of dogs have leaky gut, you got to rebuild that gut lining before you do things like an FMT or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it's unbelievable. It's just like for $125, and if insurance will cover it, and insurance will cover the FMTs and stuff too, if you have it. And even if you don't, it's a hell of a lot cheaper than going to the vet all the time, like itchy paws and diarrhea and behavioral issues and stuff like that. So
dude, I'm gonna reach out to these people and see if they can do a live stream with me, somebody from this company, because this is,
they're wonderful.
I can't tell you how many dogs have digestive issues, and well, and it's like, like even in human beings, right? They call the gut the second brain. And in fact, it might be termed the first
The first
brain
brain.
because, right,
Yeah.
if you take and you lay out all the tissues that make up our enteric nervous system, all the small intestines, large intestines, and then laid them out, it would be the size of a tennis court.
Yeah, if you if you are constantly itchy or have chronic diarrhea, you're going to be an asshole, right? Like you're you're gonna act like an asshole. Um, but doing things like that S. boulardii plus FOS is amazing for most social or for most rescue dogs. It calms them right down. It's a prebiotic and probiotic, which creates a postbiotic, and that makes it that's a pretty unreal combination right there,
Cool, man.
which creates like a calming effect too, which is pretty cool. So yeah, once you know more about health and you can do more and you know about certain companies like this, it makes a world of difference. And I would just recommend anyone that does the test to book a call with it's a free 15-minute call with their experts that'll give you the whole transcript and give you a whole outline. It's amazing. I've done it for all my dogs. If your dog has ever had antibiotics, you 100% want to do this test, and then probably apply the recommendations.
I'm trying to think of the book that I read where, dude, they've had people with these fecal transplants and that have fixed their gut.
Oh, I
Like
mean, cancer, autism, all kinds of stuff.
autism, bro. That's the first thing I was thinking about. It's like,
Yeah.
you got to be kidding me, man. If this is such a profound effect on behavior, like it, and
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense, dude. I'm so glad this is.
Yeah.
So glad I'm talking to you, man, because this is going to be
It's
life
wonderful.
changing for me, bro. I'm going to get all my dogs on this too. How many dogs do you have personally, Evan?
I now have 3, down to 3. I was down to 2, and then friggin' Shepherd joined my life. Just pulled on the old heartstrings there. Now I got a German Shepherd, but yeah, I've got my lab and then a rescue dog from Costa Rica, and now this new rescue Shepherd. And yeah.
Where in Costa Rica?
I don't know where she's from in Costa Rica. It was just she came through a rescue. I want to say it was somewhere inland.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the info. Somewhere I had never been. I've been to Costa Rica a few times, but I forget exactly where she's from. But yeah. So, Bill, I got a hard out right now, or in about 2 minutes. Yeah, in 2 minutes, I do.
Okay.
So anything else you wanna cover?
Well, I will tap you again to do a Patreon because this is
Yeah,
fantastic stuff, bro. And then I'm going to
wonderful.
reach out to these gut health people. How do people find you? What's the best way for
Doggett
people to get a
style.
hold of you?
I'm the only Doggett style out there. So Doggett style, Facebook, Instagram, podcasts, you name it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you, Evan. We'll say
Of
goodbye to
course.
everybody here, and then I'll say goodbye to you in the studio. And then you
Sounds
guys
good.
check out my Patreon, and then I'll let you know when we're back on, and get Evan back on the Patreon as well. Bye, you guys.
Bye, everyone. Know that you're loved.
Know that you're loved. Love it.